Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Chitra Nevtianingsi. I will do basic of mathematics project assignment 2. I will give some problem related to proof technique and conclusion, and I will try to solve it. And we must know that basic proof technique there are four. First, direct proof, proof by construction. Second, proof by contradiction. Third, proof by induction. And fourth, proof by contrapositive. And this is the explanation of direct proof. There are two steps. First, assume that P is true. Two, use P to show that Q must be true. And the second is proof by contradiction. The method of proof by contradiction: assume that P is true, assume that Q is true, use P and negation Q to demonstrate a contradiction. And next is proof by induction. Show that a proportional from Px is true for some basis case. Assume that Pn is true for some n and show that this implies that Pn plus 1 is true. Then, by the principle of induction, the proportional from proportional from Px is true for all n greater or equal to the basis case. And next is proof by contrapositive. From first order logic, we know that the implication if P then Q is equivalent to negation P then negation Q. The second proposition is called the contrapositive of the first proposition. By saying that the two propositions are equivalent, we mean that if one can prove if P then Q, then they have also proved if P then negation Q and vice versa. And the inference and replacement rules. This is the inference and replacement rules. There are modus ponens, modus tollens, and others. We use this to prove and also to make some conclusion. And I will give example proof by induction. Prove 3 power n greater than or equals to n plus 5 for all integers n greater than 1. And first show true for n equals 2. With this, we know that n greater than 1, and also we choose 2, so 2 is greater than 1. So we get 3 power 2 greater than or equals 2 times 2 plus 5. We get 9 greater than or equals 9. We know that 9 is equals 9, so true for n equals 2. And the next is assume true for n equals k. 3 power k greater than or equals 2k plus 5. So we get this. We replace n with k. And then we prove true for n equals k plus 1. So we replace n with k plus 1. So we get 3 for k plus 1 greater than or equals 2 times k plus 1 plus 5. And we know that 3 for k plus 1 we can change with 3 for k times 3. And we know for this assumption that 3 for k is greater than or equals to k plus 5. So we write greater than or equals to k plus 5 times 3. This times 3, this times 3 is using assumption. So from 2k plus 5 times 3, we get 6k plus 15. And we know that 6k plus 15 is greater than 2k plus 7. So we write greater than or equals to k plus 7. We can change 2k plus 7 with 2 times k plus 1 plus 5. And this is 2 times k plus 1 plus 5 is same with this. So it's true that 3 power k plus 1 greater than or equals 2 times k plus 1 plus 5. This is this same with this. So it's true. And next example, proof by contradiction. So we must prove that log base 2 of 5 is irrational. We use contradiction, so we make log base 2 of 5 is rational. And we get log base 2 of 5 equals a over b because rational. So our a, b element positive integer. So we can change log base 2 of 5 equals a over b to 5 equals 2 power a over b. And we raise both sides with b. So we get 5 power b equals 2 power a b power b. So we get 5 power b equals 2 power a. You know that 5 is odd number and 2 is even number, so it's not be same, so the premise cannot possibly be true. The premise is false, so we can prove with contradiction that the original statement is true. Log base 2 of 5 is irrational. So the next is conclusion. Proof of validity using rules inference and replacement. So we have two premises. The premise one is A or B, then C and D. So the second is A, so the conclusion is C. So use this. Number 1 and 2 is premise. So this is the conclusion. So we must prove that this is the valid. Number 1, use material implication. So we get if negation A or B, then C and D. And this is on number 3. On number 3, we use distribution. So we get this on this number 4. And number 4, we simplification. And we get negation A or B or C. We use De Morgan to number 5. And we get this on number 6. Negation A and negation B or C. And number 6, we use distributive and we get negation A or C and negation B or C. Number 7, we simplification and we get negation A or C. And last, we have C. C from 8 and 2, we use disjunctive syllogism. So, if A or B, then C and D, and A to premise and the conclusion is C is valid. Or we also can write like this, is make it more simple. And this is the same, this material implication, distribution, and simplification, De Morgan, distributive, simplification, and disjunctive syllogism. Okay, that's all for me. I hope that can be useful. And I'm sorry for my mistake. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.